knowledge is the most important knowledge? Then Rai Kahe, Ramananda Roy answered, Krishna Bhakti Vina Vidya Nahi Ar. He said, no education, no vidya, no knowledge is actually important other than the transcendental devotional service of Krishna, Krishna Bhakti. So we'll go deep into trying to understand this question. Now, text 245 to 257. These are all questions and answers between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai. Now, in these exchanges, there is an attempt to show the difference between material and spiritual existence. Education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental, and it is the best of all forms of education. Material education aims at increasing the activities of material sense gratification. How do we know this? Go to any university, look at their curriculum, go to any educational school, university, college, whatever. And what will be the goal of that education? Is science, mathematics, geography, history, what's it called?
Social studies.
Sociology.
To make a career.
Datology. All different types of knowledge. What is the goal? The goal is material sense gratification. But here, Prabhupada is explaining that the purpose of Mahaprabhu's inquiry to Ramananda Roy is to show what is the difference between material and spiritual existence. And so he says that any education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental. And it is the best of all forms of education. So this is why Prahlad Maharaj, you know the story, on the Shringa Chaturdasi, we went over the history of Prahlad Maharaj, who was a Mahabhagavat from his birth. And he had all knowledge, even though he was a young boy. And the whole history of how his father tried to kill him and so forth. But then again, he went back to the school after not succeeding in killing him. Then he sent him back to the school, thinking that he's a young boy, he'll forget what I tried to do to him. So Prahlad Maharaj, in that chapter of the 7th canto, then when the teacher go out of the room for some time, then Prahlad Maharaj was appointed as the monitor, school class monitor. Then at that time, all the boys, they wanted to just run around and play, right? And they said, Prahlad, come, play. But Prahlad Maharaj was very compassionate to them. And he had no interest in doing those activities because Prahlad Maharaj, as described in an earlier chapter in the 7th canto, he was always feeling and seeing his Lord everywhere, and tears were in his eyes continually. He was absorbed in love of God, love of Krishna. So he wanted to give some knowledge, actual real knowledge, because in that school there was no real knowledge at all. What was it? Politics, diplomacy, all of this.
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification, yeah. So Prahlad Maharaj was telling them, he said that, because they said, well, Prahlad, we're just children now. We can do that later. This is our time in life for playing. And then he gave that example of suppose you live 100 years, and how much of that time do you sleep? So reducing the 100 years down, and in your childhood you're frivolously doing this and that, so then you can't use your human form of life properly. And then in old age, so many pains, so many inconveniences are coming, so you can't use that time. And then in your youth, then you are caught up in married life and making money and doing all that, so that your human life goes by, you have very little time. So nobody can argue that, oh, we will do that later. Well, first of all, there's no guarantee that you'll even live into your old age. But even if you do, how much time is really there? And when someone can actually deeply understand what is the value of a human body. You know, before any of us came to Krishna consciousness, we did not know this. What is the value of a human body? Because no knowledge. Even I went to a Christian school. Oh, you're supposed to worship God and go back to heaven, go to heaven, not back to heaven, go to heaven. and right, and live your life, you know. So, but there's no knowledge about why are there so many species of life, and why do I have a human body, and what is the use of a human body compared to an animal's body? So only Vedic knowledge can reveal these simple truths. When someone understands that, they can never be the same again. Because without Dharma, without spiritual practices in a human body, that body is no better than an animal. Although able to compose poetry and speak so many words and do everything, but the ultimate result is it's the same as animal life: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So the human form is, you know, traveling with our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, we saw how many times he would quote a particular verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is talking about how rare the human body is. Prahlad Maharaj also told that. Durlava manasya janma. Very, very rare to get a human body. But the human birth can be fully utilized if one actually practices bhakti yoga. Otherwise, it's also for nothing. It's also wasted. You lose the opportunity. And this is a very serious matter, but no one will tell about this danger. This is the most dangerous thing. In Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, Krishna, they're explaining the most dangerous thing is that you come to the human form, you don't utilize it, then again, you lose that human form in the next life and you go back down into lower species, where you're basically like unconscious, not aware. But human life, you're given the intelligence to wake up. So, because of Kali Yuga, therefore, this opportunity is not being given to the masses of people because it's Kali Yuga. In previous yugas, people knew there was a dharmic government and there was a dharmic system of living so that the soul can be elevated and the soul can achieve mukti, real liberation from the repeated cycle of birth and death. So, in any species of life, there is sense gratification. Any species, there is always everywhere. The birds, the insects, the animals, the aquatics, reptiles, all are getting sense gratification. But the human form of life is not meant just for that. And this is the message that the Vedas are giving to the jivas. But what is the actual main aim of human form of life? That requires vidya, the highest knowledge. And that can come only from the highest source, the Supreme Lord himself, who has manifested the Vedic knowledge in this universe. So with that vidya, with that real knowledge, the soul can achieve his highest gain that is possible to achieve any living being. So therefore, when Mahaprabhu was asking, what is the real vidya? What is the real education? And then Ramananda Roy said, no education is important other than bhakti yoga, the transcendental loving service to Krishna. He says Krishna bhakti, not even or any, but specifically Krishna bhakti. And we will see that again and again in this discussion, how Krishna bhakti specifically is the best. So now, Prabhupada continues in this purport. Education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental. And it is the best of all forms of education. So any group of people anywhere in the world can sit together like we are doing, can read together, can chant, can receive this transcendental message unlimitedly. Even if we sat here day and night for the rest of our life, we couldn't even touch all the literatures that have been given by the acharyas. We can only have a fraction of it. And even if you read it once, even if we read through the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have to read it again. Or the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. 1 year later, you should read it again. That's the best utilization of the human form of life, human intelligence. It is all nectar. And everything else is basically poison. Then he says, material education. It aims at increasing the activities. It aims at increasing the activities of sense gratification, material sense gratification. So that's what everybody, it's being marketed to everybody, en masse, non-stop. Gratify your senses in this way, gratify your senses in this way. Just like, for example, this current situation of people being quarantined, stay inside, don't go out, don't do this, don't do that. You know, after 1 month doing it, after 2 months doing it, they're practically crawling up the walls. And they've tried because they think that they're supposed to be gratifying their senses, so they're inventing all different ways of trying to interact. But so much frustration is there. Therefore, there's so much domestic violence. Therefore, the suicide rates are going up. Why? Because no knowledge. You can tell a devotee, sit here for the next year. We'll provide some food for you to eat, but you're not allowed to do anything. To go here, to go there. What will the devotee do? The devotee of Krishna will take his japa mala and sit and chant the holy names. And if he has the Srimad Bhagavatam, he'll read that. You see? So that education is transcendental. It's transcendental. It's not material. You see? Now, Prabhupada goes on and he says, beyond material sense gratification is a negative form of knowledge. What is that called? Brahma Vidya, impersonal, transcendental knowledge. So, here he's comparing. So, yes, there is this material sense gratification, and then there's a negative form of knowledge. He calls it a negative form, the opposite, called Brahma Vidya, impersonal transcendental knowledge. It exists. There is an impersonal absolute. But beyond that Brahma Vidya, or the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, is knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. This knowledge is higher than any impersonal knowledge, because that impersonal knowledge can only bring you to the very edge of the Brahma Jyoti effulgence before entering into the eternal Paravyom, the unlimited expanse of Vaikuntha planet, spiritual realm. You cannot even enter there with the impersonal knowledge. But knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu, this knowledge is higher. It's much higher than any impersonal knowledge, or to speak of mundane sense gratification. So, and then he goes further and he says, and higher still than that. Then what? Devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Higher still is devotional service to Lord Krishna, which is the topmost form of education. How do we know that this is higher? How do we know that worship of Lord Krishna is much higher than the worship of Lord Vishnu? How do we know this? There are many people in India, they prefer to worship Lord Vishnu, Lakshmi Narayan, in the Vaikuntha realm. But Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, who is the source of all avatars, he's inquiring. And what is the subject matter? Not Vishnu Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti. So how do we know this? How do we know that Krishna Bhakti is higher than Vishnu Bhakti?
It's in scriptures.
Which scriptures? Many people read many different scriptures.
Kama Samhita.
Yes.
And
Srimad Bhagavatam. The entire Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
Which is the complete ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. And it is the natural commentary on the last philosophical literature written by Vyasadeva, namely the Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on that, which aims to understand the ultimate absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. That means this is the spotless proof, pramanam, spotless evidence to understand the highest truth. So Srimad Bhagavatam, the entire 10th canto, the longest canto, 90 chapters, only about Krishna. You see. All the other forms, all the other avatars, they are also covered in the previous cantos, but the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna Bhakti. So, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, tat karma paritosham yat sa vidya tanmatiraya. The work meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord is the best. And education that enhances one's Krishna consciousness is the best. Yes. And also according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, this is the same verse that I was referring to before of Prahlad Maharaj. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. This is Prahlad Maharaj telling this famous verse, the 9 limbs of bhakti. He says, Iti pung sarpita Vishnu bhaktis chain nava lakshana kriyeta bhagavatyadha tanmanye aditam uttamam. He says, one who is engaged in these 9 practices of devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, to Vishnu. One who is engaged in such activities is understood to be educated to the topmost perfection. Tanmanye aditam uttamam. This is most, like Uttam Mahabhagavad, means topmost level. So, the topmost level of education is what Prahlad Maharaj, who is a Mahajan. He's one of the 12 great authorities in the entire universe, Prahlad Maharaj. There are 12 Mahajans. He's one of them. And his opinion matters. His opinion is perfect. So he's telling here that anyone who worships Vishnu through these 9 different processes, hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye, it is my opinion. Tanmanye Aditam Uttamam, he is the topmost knowledgeable person. He is educated to the topmost perfection. So now we go to the next question that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked to Ramananda Roy. Kirti gana madhye jiver kon baro kirti. The question is, kirti actually means glorious activities, or also glory. Means like fame, glory. So, out of all glorious activities, which is the most glorious? Kirti Gana Madhye, amongst all kirti, all glorious activities. Jiver Kon Baro Kirti, which is the greatest glory. And what did Ramananda Rai reply? He said, Krishna Bhakta Bolia Jahara Hoy Khyati. He said, that person who is reputed, who has a reputation to be a devotee of Lord Krishna, Krishna Bhakta, he enjoys the utmost fame and glory. So there's a lot of personalities in this world who are all celebrities. It comes from the word celebrated persons, right? Celebrity. They're being celebrated by the masses of people as being someone very important, someone who has some extraordinary qualities, someone who has certain abilities, etc., right? Or they just have a beautiful looking body or whatever. All those different types of characteristics are there in the so-called celebrities. But the real question is, who really is truly glorious, eternally, forever? Out of all different glorious persons, who is the most glorious, the most famous, the most reputed? So Ramananda Rai replied, that person who is reputed, who is known to be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Now, a devotee of Lord Krishna means pure devotee of the Lord. So that person enjoys the utmost fame and glory. Srila Prabhupada is giving very interesting purport and comment here now. Yes. So Prabhupada is explaining. The greatest reputation that a living being can have is to be a devotee of Krishna and to act in Krishna consciousness. To be a devotee of Krishna and to act in Krishna consciousness. In the material world, everyone is trying to be famous by accumulating a large bank balance or material opulence. There is a steady competition among karmis attempting to advance in a wealthy society. Don't we see that? Huh? Steady competition. Among karmis, attempting to advance in a wealthy society. The whole world is turning in accordance with that competitive mood, isn't it? But this kind of name and fame is temporary. For it lasts only as long as the temporary material body exists. We've heard various names in recent times, very famous people, very wealthy people, Soros, Gates, etc., etc. Especially this guy. You see his picture. He looks like he's just a few steps away from the grave. What's going to happen at that time to his billions, to all of his schemes? Everyone will be defeated by the material nature. And then they will be punished for not using their human form of life. They're complete atheists. Complete atheists. And their whole goal of life is control, sense gratification, power. That's all in the realm of sense gratification. What happens at the time of death? Zero. Finished. No connection at all. Gone. And by the laws of material nature, they plummet down to the lowest level. And Krishna places them, as he tells in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I place them down into the lowest species of life. They have to remain there millions and millions of lifetimes. So what is the value of that? Well, this kind of name and fame is temporary. It lasts only as long as the temporary material body exists. One may become famous as a Brahmagyani even. There are so many people in India, Brahmagyanis, impersonalist scholars. Or one may become a materially opulent person with lots of money and wealth. But in either case, such reputations are inferior to the reputation of Krishna's devotee. Here's a verse from the Garuda Purana which states this fact. Kalo bhagavatam nama durlabam naiva labhyate brahma rudra padot krishnam guruna katitam mama. Translation. In this age of Kali, the fame of one who is known as a great devotee is very rare. Durlabam naiva labhyate. Kalo, bhagavatam nama. To be known, to be famous as a great devotee in the Kali Yuga, very, very rare. This is the Garuda Purana. However, such a position is superior to that of the great demigods even, like Brahma and Mahadev, Lord Shiva. This is the opinion of all spiritual masters. Guruna katitam mama. All gurus, this is their opinion, that to be famous, especially in Kali Yuga, as a great devotee, very rare. And this position is even superior. Padot Krishtam. That means it's superior to Brahma, Rudra, and all the other demigods. Then another verse, there's a number of verses quoted. In the Itihasa Samuchaya, so in that scripture, Narada is telling to Pundarik, Janmantara sahasreshu yasya syad buddhir idrishi dasoham vasudevasya sarval lokan samudharet. Translation. After many, many births, Janmantara sahasreshu. It means after many births, thousands, sahasreshu, when a person that he is the eternal servant of Vasudeva. Vasudevasya. Dasoham means I am a servant of Vasudeva. Then that person who has realized that and achieved that, it says here, Sarval Lokan Samuddaret. He can deliver all the different worlds, all the planetary systems. That person can deliver them. That's how powerful is a devotee. Then, in the Adi Purana, in a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, it is said, Bhaktanam anugachanti muktaya shruti bhi saha. Quote, the most excellent position of liberation is given by Vedic knowledge. Everyone follows in the footsteps of a devotee. Bhaktanam anugachanti. The footsteps of a devotee. Muktaya shruti bhi saha. This is the most exalted position of Vedic knowledge. Similarly, in the Brihan Naradiya Purana, it is further stated, Adyapicha Munishreshta Brahmadya Apidevata. Quote, until now, even the great demigods, like Brahma and Shiva, did not know the influence of a devotee. Brihad Naradiya Purana, Munishreshta Brahmadya Apidevata. All the devatas, even up to now, like Brahma, Shiva, they did not really know the influence of a devotee. And the Garuda Purana similarly states, Brahmananam sahasrebhya satra yaji vishishyate satra yaji sahasrebhya sarva vedanta paraga sarva vedanta vidkotya vishnu bhakto vishishyate vaishnavanam sahasrebhya ekantieko vishishyate. Whoa. This is a great verse, comparing all different levels. Listen to this translation. It is said that out of thousands of brahmanas, one is qualified to perform sacrifice, yajan. Said like we were talking today, yagyas. Out of thousands of brahmanas, one is qualified. And out of many thousands of such qualified brahmins, who are expert in sacrificial offerings, one learned Brahmin may have passed beyond all Vedic knowledge. He is considered the best among all these Brahmanas. And yet, out of thousands of such Brahmanas who have surpassed Vedic knowledge, one person may be a Vishnu Bhakta, and he is most famous. And out of many thousands of such Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of Lord Krishna is most famous. Indeed, a person who is completely devoted to the service of the Lord certainly returns home back to Godhead. So there is also the following statement from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 13th chapter, verse 4. Shutasya pumsam suchira shramasya nanvanjasa suribir iditorta tad gunanu shravanam mukunda padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. After much hard labor, a person highly learned in Vedic literature certainly becomes very famous. However, one who is always hearing and chanting the glories of the lotus feet of Mukunda within his heart is certainly superior. In the Narayan Vyuhastava, it is said, Naham brahmapi bhuyasam tvad bhakti rahito hare tvai bhaktas tukito pi bhuyasam janma janmasu. I do not aspire to take birth as a Brahma if that Brahma is not a devotee of the Lord. Naham brahmapi bhuyasam tvad bhakti rahito hare. I don't want even to be born as Lord Brahma if that Lord Brahma is not a bhakta of the Supreme Lord. I shall be satisfied simply to take birth as an insect. Kitopi. Kita means insect. If I am given a chance to remain where? Take a guess. He doesn't want to become Lord Brahma with a supreme position in the universe, opulence and everything, if he's not a devotee. But he will be willing to accept birth as an insect if that birth is where?
In the house of a pure devotee.
There, yes. Exactly. Tvai bhaktas tu kitopi, in your bhakta's house. So there are many similar verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he quotes the different places, 3rd canto, 4th canto, 7th, 10th. And it was Lord Shiva. Actually, Prabhupada is also, this is from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's purport, all these details. Oh yes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Prabhupada is relating all these pramans and evidences that they have cited, you see. So, it was Lord Shiva who said, I do not know the truth about Krishna, but a devotee of Lord Krishna, he knows all the truth. And out of all the devotees of Lord Krishna, Prahlad is the greatest. This is Lord Shiva telling this. Okay? Actually, Prahlad Maharaj, he's in a certain level, in the comparative levels of the bhaktas. Gurudev used to lecture on this, 5 different levels of bhaktas, right? So, Lord Shiva's on a very high level. We've understood, if you read that little book of Gurudev's, Shiva Tattva, and you can understand from different angles, the post of the person, the position of the person himself, the person, Shiva, his relationship with Krishna, etc. There are different vichars, different ways to analyze. But he's telling like this. A pure devotee of Krishna knows the whole truth. I don't know the truth about Krishna. He's very humble. But out of all devotees of Lord Krishna, Prahlad, he's the greatest. So that's why now, I think this is from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It didn't actually say, yes, it didn't say whether this is from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Sanatana Goswami. But I think so. Because, you know, in that book, when Narada Rishi is traveling throughout the universe and he's visiting, he visits starting from a king who's very opulent in South India. He's doing all these yagyas on the bank of the river. And Narada comes and says, oh, king, I think that you must be the greatest recipient of the mercy of the Supreme Lord, because just look at your position. He starts glorifying him. You're doing so many yagyas, you worship in this way. He says, me? You think that I'm a great devotee? No. I'm not a great devotee. I'll tell you why. And then the king humbly starts deriding himself and said, I have no real devotion. But if you want to meet a real recipient of Krishna's mercy, now you should go, O Narada, you should go and visit with King Indra in the heavenly planets. Now that person, he's definitely received the mercy of the Lord. He's like millions of times more opulent than me, and he's such a devotee. And he goes there and he approaches Indra, Narada ji does. And then what happens? Indra says, I'm not a great devotee. I'm not a great devotee. You know how many offenses I've committed against the Lord? So many times. Even I tried to destroy his Vrindavan one time. No, I'm not a great devotee at all. But if you want to meet a great devotee, then you should go to Lord Shiva, you know, like this. So in this way, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Sanatana Goswami has 2 parts. The first part is Narada searching and going higher, higher, higher to find the ultimate recipient of Krishna's mercy. Yeah, eventually he comes to Goloka Vrindavan.
What an adventure.
Yeah, it's a journey he went on, right? But in each case, each devotee thinks, no, I'm not a devotee. Why are you thinking that I'm a devotee? No, I'll tell you why I'm not a devotee, because of this and this and this. But if you want to, then you go to there, like that. So, and then the second part of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which Gurudev has given to us also. And there's a very good translation also from the Bhaktivedanta book just. So, Gurudev, he's given this journey of Gopakumara. The second half of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is the journey of a personality named Gopakumara. And if you read Gurudev's book, Going Beyond Vaikuntha, that book lectures on this part of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. That was the first book that was written by any of the 6 Goswamis. And Sanatana Goswami wrote that book after being empowered by Lord Chaitanya and spending 2 months with him in Varanasi every day, hearing from Mahaprabhu. We have 5 chapters in the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita describing what is called Sanatana Siksha. Now, going further, we're getting, okay, a few more verses. So, Lord Shiva said, of all the devotees of Lord Krishna, Prahlad is the greatest. Then above Prahlad, the Pandavas are supposedly more advanced. And above the Pandavas are the members of the Yadu dynasty, who are even more advanced. So look at what Prabhupada is doing. Prabhupada is giving exactly the same thing that Gurudev preached from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. This 5 levels of bhaktas, from Prahlad to the members of the Yadu dynasty, and even in the Yadu dynasty, or the Pandavas, and then the members of the Yadu dynasty, and the Uddhava is the furthest advanced. And then above Uddhava are the damsels of Brajadam, the gopis themselves. So, in the Brihad Vamana Purana, Lord Brahma tells to Bhrigu Muni, he says, Shasti Varsha Sahasrani Maya Taptam Tapapura Nanda Gopa Vrajastrina Pada Renu Palabhyate. So this is Lord Brahma telling in the Brihad Vamana Purana, he's telling to Bhrigu Muni, I underwent meditation and austerity for 60,000 years just to understand the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. Did you hear that? What did he undergo meditation for 60,000 years for?
Just to understand the dust of the lotus.
Yes. And he says, still, I could not understand it. Lord Brahma is telling. And to say nothing of me, even Lord Shiva, even Ananta Shesha, and the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, they could not understand the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. Now in the Adi Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself says, Na tata me priyatamo, Brahma rudrascha partiva, na cha lakshmir na chatma cha, yata gopi jano mama. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, and even my own self are not as dear to me as the gopis. This is Krishna's own quotation in the Adi Purana. Brahma rudrascha partiva. So, none of them, in even my very own self, not even Lakshmi Devi, goddess of fortune, are as dear to me as the gopis. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are the most exalted servitors of Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those who adhere to their service, they are known as Rupanuga devotees. See, Prabhupada is talking about Rupanuga devotees. The Chaitanya Chandramrita scripture, written by Prabodhananda Saraswati. I have that book. Very amazing glorification of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Chandramrita. And then Prabodhananda Saraswati also wrote Radha Rasa Sudanidhi. Yes? That we were reading when Sripad Bhaktiswarup Sridhar Maharaj was here. We were reading that with him. And also, Prabodhananda Saraswati, he wrote Vrindavan Mahimamritam. This is the glorification of Vrindavan. You cannot imagine. Amritam has 10,000 verses. Did you hear that? 10, not 100 or 1,000. 10,000 verses he wrote. Glorifying what? Vrindavan. Shrimati Radharani, the gopis, all the residents of Braj. He wrote that with 100 shatakas. A shataka means 100 verses. But now we only have 17 left. Only 1,700 verses we have of those 10,000 verses. Prabodhananda Saraswati. And who is Prabodhananda Saraswati in the eternal Goloka Vrindavan? We know who he is in Chaitanya's Leela. He's the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He's the brother of Gopal Bhatta Goswami's father, Venkata Bhatta. Yes? And when Mahaprabhu went to South India, after this discussion, he went to South India, and he stayed for 4 months during the rainy season in Sri Rangam with Venkata Bhatta, Trimala Bhatta, his brother, and the 3 brothers. And young Goswami was a boy at that time. 4 months he lived in the house of him. So Prabodhananda Saraswati, after that, he went to Vrindavan. And his samadhi is right near to the Kaliya Krishna tree. Yes, right near to Madan Mohan temple. His samadhi is there. He lived a very long time in Vrindavan and wrote these books. So, in the Chaitanya Chandramrita, it gives the following statement about who? Srila Rupa Goswami. Prabodhananda Saraswati is glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami. This is the last verse I'll read, and then we'll have the arti. It ends this purport. Ashtam Vairagya Kotir Bhavatu Samadamak Shanti Maitradikotis Tattva Nudhyana Kotir Bhavatu Bhavatu Va Vaishnavi Bhakti Koti Kotyam Sho Pyasya Nasyad Tadapi Gunagano Ya Svata Siddha Aste Srimach Chaitanya Chandra Priya Charananaka Jyotir Amoda Bhaja. The qualities of one engaged in the service of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such as reputation, austerities, penances, and knowledge, are not to be compared to the good quality of others. Such is the perfection of a devotee, always engaged in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have the book, and now I know the number of this. So I'm going to look it up later. And there will be a more complete translation. Prabhupada is kind of synopsizing this verse. Yes. So the qualities of one engaged in the service of who? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Priya Charana Naka Jyotir Amoda Bhajam. It's glorifying a person who's actually a bhakta of Sri Chaitanya Swami. And therefore, all reputation, austerities, penance, not compared to any other good qualities of anyone else. The greatest personalities, servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Such is the perfection of a devotee, always engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gaur Premanandi. Vamsha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Padmanabha Maharaj, thank you. Hare Krishna. I have to go home.
Yeah, of course, it's okay.
Jai Shri Krishna. Jai